The Animorphs Save Christmas, a festive fanfic by Torrin. Based on the Animorphs book series by Catherine Applegate and Michael Grant. 1. Do you hear what I hear? When I was a kid, I heard Santa on Christmas Eve. Okay, I heard a door close and some footsteps. I was so excited, a little nervous that I wasn't asleep yet. Santa only comes if you're asleep, right? I never really understood the rules to Santa. The chimney thing didn't bother me. We didn't have one, so the front door made sense. Now, obviously, what I really heard was my mom or dad. Probably mom. She was better at that kind of stuff. Maybe it wasn't the front door at all. Maybe my dad had to pee in the middle of the night. Or I might have imagined the whole thing. Or been dreaming. Who knows? But I was awake this time. And it was happening again. Someone was in my house around midnight on Christmas Eve. And it definitely wasn't my dad or Nora. We learned in biology that there are 3 F's to survival. Well, actually, there's a 4th, but only if your parents signed the permission slip for that very special class, which mine didn't. They are fight, flight, and freeze. In my case, that meant morph something big, morph something small, or do nothing. Definitely not that last option. David had gotten the better of me once, and I'd spent several hours in the closet learning what it feels like to be an accordion. The thought of David must have short-circuited my brain and let my spinal cord make the decision, because I suddenly found myself out of bed. I hunched over, assuming the natural posture of my favorite morph. Nobody, human or alien, wants to come across a gorilla in the dark. I had just felt the process begin when... Oh good, you're awake. Right. Option C. Neither human nor alien. I hate option C. Hi, Eric, I grumbled. I take it you're not here for milk and cookies. Eric flipped the lights on. I instinctively raised my hands to block the harsh glare. I was taken by surprise, again, at the sound of Eric's laughter. Oh, Marco, didn't they warn you about that in health class? Next thing you'll go blind. What are you talking of? And then I noticed. The backs of my hands were covered with thick, black fur. That's all that had changed before I stopped the morph. I was a little upset to be the butt of Eric's joke, and much more upset that I didn't think of it myself. That's palms, idiot! Hairy palms! Yeah, well, you'd know better than me. Come on, let's get going. Going? What the hell are you talking about? I'll explain later. Come on, Jake's already on board. We're getting Rachel next. 2. He'll have a big fat pack upon his back. You really should thank me, Jake said, suspiciously amused at the whole thing. Eric wanted to get Rachel first, but I knew you'd be really pissed if you didn't get to see this. He was right. Eric emerged onto Rachel's front lawn. You know when the fisherman on the nature show catches a prize-winning fish only to have it wiggle at the perfect second and it slips right back into the ocean? Rachel was the fish, only she had no chance of slipping out of Eric's grip. We were watching through a view screen in the fuselage. No sound at all made it through, which somehow made it even funnier. As Eric and Rachel made it to the ship, the doorway opened, as if by magic, and the wall of sound emanating from Rachel nearly knocked me over. After Eric had calmly put her down, well, Rachel, given that my parents were the Pemalites and they were, in a sense, dogs, your colorful description of me is reasonably accurate. Still winded and convulsing with anger, Rachel finally noticed the two of us. You too, huh? She grunted. Jake, I said. Yeah? Thanks, man. Merry Christmas, Marco. Collecting Cassie, Tobias, and Axe was significantly less amusing, but 10 minutes later, there we were, on the deck of... Where the hell were we? The technology looked vaguely Yeerk, but it wasn't a bug fighter or a blade ship. Eric, how did the Chi come to acquire the Yeerk ship we took to the Hork-Bajir world and back? Axe asked. Ah, I remembered now. Yeah, did Quetzalcoatl put up a fight or anything? I added. Quaffaginavan, Cassie corrected. Quaffaginavan is dead, Eric answered, entirely too casually. The Arn were master genetic engineers. Not so great at keeping secrets. Says the guy whose password is 6, Rachel grumbled. Ah, man, Eric said, snapping his fingers. None of us could remember it. If we had, we could have used the mothership. Rachel wasn't amused. Anyway, Eric continued, one of us snuck on board when he dropped you guys off. If you're the last of your species, no next of kin, and you go around advertising the exact hour of your death, it's rather easy for someone to board your ship and remain cloaked and motionless for the requisite amount of time. That's impressive, said Tobias. No, said Cassie. The Arn do have a next of kin. This ship belongs to the Hork-Bajir. We'll take care of that if and when the Yeerk threat has been... Jake interrupted. Okay, that's enough fun. Eric, you want to fill us in on why we're all standing here in our pajamas? And if it has anything to do with the seasonal celebration underway, perhaps, Eric, you could explain it to me more clearly, because I am still quite confused. Eric waves dismissively. We'll cover everything when we arrive, which won't take long. Trust me, you won't believe me until you see it. He paused briefly, then quickly muttered, maybe not even then. Won't believe it, huh? Jake asked. Axe? Yes, Prince Jake. Which direction are we heading? 13 degrees east of magnetic north, which I believe you would erroneously call true north. Eric, this doesn't have anything to do with the Venbird, does it? Jake sounded like he hoped it did. It does not. That means... Yeah, Eric smiled. Jake shook his head. No. No way. 3. Checking it twice. I don't believe it. I don't festive believe it. Only he didn't say festive. Jake had been cycling through some variation of that phrase all through the ship's approaching and landing. All through our trudging across 50 feet of snow as Eric led us to an inexplicable concrete bunker with 3 heavy doors in the middle of an otherwise featureless snow plain. It had all the gravitas of waiting for Best Buy to open. To tell you the truth, I'm not sure I believed it either, but at least I was having fun with it. Told you, Eric gloated to Jake. Now put these on. Eric was handing out wool caps, red, lined with a white brim, with a white fuzzy ball at the end. He even had a little one for Tobias. Santa hats. The Chi are giving us Santa hats, Jake muttered into the wind. Well, duh, Big Jake, I said. When in Rome, as the saying goes. Thank you, Eric. Can I please just morph polar bear? Tobias pleaded, shivering on Rachel's shoulder. No morphs yet. This is very important. Okay, Rachel and Axe, line up behind this door on the left. Then Jake and Tobias, middle door here. Tobias very reluctantly flapped from Rachel to Jake. And Marco and Cassie, on the right, Eric said. I didn't get a hat, said Rachel. Nor did I, although my stock eyes would not be ideal for such a thing. It's supposed to be this way. Rachel and Axe, you don't celebrate Christmas. Non-celebrators go through this door. I believe I would very much like to, Axe said, with a hopeful note. Wait, said Cassie. Marco and I celebrate. Why aren't we in line with Jake and Tobias? Instead of answering, Eric stood in front of me and fiddled with my hat. He then went to Cassie and did the same. He was pinning something to it, a small medallion or something. It was black and looked kind of lumpy, like a potato? Or was it... Wait. Is that a lump of coal? I exclaimed. Yes, Eric said. It means you can only enter if accompanied by a security escort. Oh my God, Tobias gasped. It's the list, isn't it? What list? Axe asked. Wait, Rachel said. Marco, I understand, but... I feel bad about it now, but right then, I'm sure I was beaming brighter than any Christmas tree. Cassie! You and I are on the naughty list! I don't frankincensing believe it, Jake offered. The doors slowly slid open. 4. Right this very minute. It's real. It's all real. Let me tell you, walking through a heavy doorway onto a steep staircase leading into the bowels of the earth gave every one of us some serious trauma flashbacks. Can't imagine why. Eric didn't understand what the fuss was about. Screw him, I said. This got me a jolt from a candy cane-shaped cattle prod from my security escort. But once we made our way in, oh, what a difference. We were slowly spiraling our way down a pure white pathway which wrapped around a silo that must have been 200 feet across. An impossibly large Christmas tree stretched up from the middle of the silo, aglow with thousands of lights and ornaments, yet no hint of hooks or wires. Further down, I could see branches of the great tree gracefully join at various points with the spiral and seamlessly blend into bridges, balconies, rooms. At the bottom, we had a wide open view of the factory floor where hundreds of red and green clad workers ferried between ornate workstations. This reminds me of that museum in New York, if the whole thing were an ice sculpture, Jake said. The Guggenheim, Tobias clarified. The walls and walkway indeed seemed to be carved from snow, but it was warm, and the surfaces appeared soft, like linen, but somehow firm enough to walk on normally.
No touching,
growled Thing 1. That's what I had decided to call my security elf. Cassie, naturally, had Thing 2. I thought about saying something back. This twerp was 3 feet tall, I could take him. But what would be the point? Is that polar bear drinking a Pepsi? Rachel asked, pointing.
Don't be ridiculous,
squeaked Thing 2.
It's Diet Coke. He's under contract.
After a dozen or so laps around the grand spiral, Eric directed us to one of the snow bridges. Now that we were down this far, the trunk of the Goliath Christmas tree was as wide across as a house. Carved into the trunk was a full porch, including a tiny 3-step staircase, and a door so well crafted that I knew in an instant, "Must be Santa's," Tobias said. Eric motioned for us to stop at the foot of the stairs. He ascended and knocked gently. The door opened. At this point, I expected the big guy himself, but instead, it was the missus. Now, I make jokes. I say things I don't mean, and usually regret, eventually. But in the presence of this creature, in my heart, I whispered to no one in particular, I take it all back. I couldn't tell if this face was young or old. She seemed delicate but not fragile. And when she looked at me, I all at once became aware and ashamed that I was indeed on the naughty list. But with a single, slow nod, she made it clear to us that we were all welcome in. To the chagrin of Euronymous and Devarim, beautiful elves with beautiful names whom I completely regret calling Thing 1 and Thing 2. I melted. I melted like so much fallen snow. Then I remembered the Chi were involved and started hoping Mrs. Claus wasn't just another robot. 5. Someone more deserving of applause. It's not real. None of it's real. Eric did his best to explain. Axe tried to help, which only made it worse. Okay, you're here in the sense that you're not home asleep in your bed, but you're not here... Let me start over. Everything in the universe can be thought of as a wave. Obviously, Axe added. I'll take your word for it, Jake said. Eric continued. Waves have crests and troughs. If 2 crests meet, you get a bigger wave. If a crest and a trough meet, they cancel out. The universe is full of random waves of possibility. Most of them just meet contradictory possibilities and average out to nothing. Humans don't understand this yet. Even Andalites don't fully get it, but the same way a heavy object can warp space-time, an area with conscious minds can, sometimes, warp reality. It helps when you get enough people thinking about the same thing. If an idea is simple but specific enough, it gets reinforced. Crests upon crests until finally you have a wave that's just strong enough to emerge into reality. Modern humans, around the time of the winter solstice, have some really specific expectations. Call it the spirit of Christmas. Charles Dickens caused some havoc with that book of his, but what really got the ball rolling was Macy's and the Coca-Cola Company putting a nearly identical image of Christmas into the minds of half the population. This is what it manifests. Mrs. Claus here, she was created about 150 years ago. And the newest addition to the ensemble? Rudolph. The 8 flying reindeer go back at least a century, but Rudolph showed up in 1949. He's the newest part of the Christmas canon. But The Yeerks may ruin that, added Mrs. Claus quietly. Well, I, for one, was not going to let her down. I was wondering how this related to us, said Jake. Eric held out one arm. A short hologram played in the palm of his hand. It showed a large, white-bearded man in a tank top and sweatpants floating up an energy beam into a Yeerk blade ship. Basically, the Yeerks hate Christmas, Eric said. That sounds about right, replied Tobias. It's not what you're thinking. It's not the spirit of the season or Yuletide joy or anything like that. It's very practical to them. It's got to be bad for their productivity, said Cassie. Exactly. I don't follow, said Jake. Think about it, Eric insisted. People travel for the holidays. You're around extended family, retail workers work more, school lets out. It destroys the feeding schedule. We estimate the month of December alone causes the Yeerks similar setbacks to 3 average Animorph missions. Thanks a lot, said Jake. Eric raised his hands in a false showing of deference. Hey, that's your side of the biz. I just run the numbers. So, if the Yeerks can sufficiently disrupt what many humans have come to expect from this winter tradition, the waveform collapses and it simply ceases to be? Axe gets it, said Eric. If they can stop Christmas from coming tomorrow, they stop it forever. And that's more time they can spend infesting. So do I understand Christmas now? Axeman, said Tobias, I'm starting to feel like you're the only one. And that's why we brought you here, Eric said, ominously. The Yeerks believe, with Santa neutralized, nobody else can do the job. Let's hope they're wrong. 6. Lots of toys and goodies. And that's how, a half hour later, I found myself yoked and bridled and gliding along at 20,000 feet. At least I was warm. I thought flying as a bird was fun, shouted Rachel. But this is like running through the air. This is so cool! Speak for yourself, I grumbled. All I've got is a view right up Jake's chimney. Explain to me again why Axe, the one resident quadruped, gets to be Santa? Jesus, Marco, where did you go for the whole briefing while we acquired these things? Jake retorted. It's because of the milk and cookies. We think he's the only one of us with even a slim chance of being able to handle it. I shall strive to be worthy of this honor. Oh, Eric said I need to do this from time to time. Ow! I shouted as the sound and feeling of a sharp crack exploded against my hindquarters. On Flossie, on Glossy, on Racer and Pacer. Not even close, Axe. Look, Jake, it was a lot to keep track of, okay? He's in love, Cassie mocked. Mrs. Claus spoke and Marco went to Cloud Cuckoo Land for a while. Won't you guide my sleigh tonight had in fact been the most beautiful thing I'd ever heard. Unfortunately, she'd said it to Tobias. I don't even know what the point of a glowing nose is at this altitude, but Rachel's right. Damn, this is fun, Tobias shouted. So which one are you? Cassie asked. Tobias is Rudolph. I think I'm Dasher. Vixen, obviously, said Rachel. You know, I'm embarrassed, but I've been saying Donner my whole life, Jake said. Turns out it's Donder? Yeah, Jake, I heard Donner the reindeer throws a hell of a party, but the food leaves something to be desired, I said. You're not getting out of it that easy, Marco. Which one are you? That's not important. He's Cupid! Shouted Rachel. Shut up, Rachel! I tried to spur her with my antlers. It just caused Axe to crack the whip into me again. 7. I knew in an instant he must be Saint Nick. Our first house was a no-chimney, land-on-the-front-lawn situation. Axe was finishing up his morph, that is to say, his normal human morph, into the oversized signature hat and coat. And sack, don't forget the sack. When he put on the hat, I could see his distinctive Andalite smile come through in his human eyes. Ho, ho, ho! Ho, ho, ho! Axe bellowed. Looking good, Axe, Tobias reassured him. All right, Axe, remember, big stuff under the tree, small stuff in the stockings, leave some of the last cookie, drink about 60% of the milk, don't say anything. Yes, Prince Donder, replied Axe. The front door seems to kind of give way before him with a weird schloop sound, which I almost didn't count as weird. It was the norm on Yeerk ships and with Chi holograms. Not so much in suburbia, but the logic of domestic entryways was the least of my concerns. We crowded the window to watch Santa in action. "Vanilla wafers, classic choice," said Rachel. Jake was having a conniption as his breath fogged the window. "He dropped his axe! Your hat!" "No, that's one of the stockings. Turn around." "That's an ornament. That's an ornament on the floor." "Oh, God, we can't do this." "Cassie, Tobias, one of you start morphing and help me out of this harness thing. We need to—" "Shh, easy, Jake. Calm down," said Cassie. "He's got it." "Hey, there's a carrot here on the front stoop," Tobias shouted. "For Rudolph," I clarified. "Eat it, Tobias. My mom did that too." "What about the rest of us?" said Rachel indignantly. "Did they leave anything for us on the lawn?" "I'm working on something for their lawn," I grumbled. I heard the front door schloop out of the way as Axe emerged triumphantly. He turned to Jake with a smile and crumbs on his face. "Did I do it?" "That'll have to be close enough, Axe. Next house." 8. Scary Ghost Stories. And on we went in that fashion. A duplex in Detroit, a colonial in Connecticut, a hotel in Hertfordshire, and a yurt in Yellowstone. Don't ask me about travel time or distance, it was all a blur. Axe was making a list and checking it twice of his favorite types of cookies. And milks. Whole is better than skim, cow is better than goat, but oat is better than cow. Oat, goat, goat, oat. Interesting. Sting. The various nuts are all quite similar, better than goat, but worse than cow. And soy is the worst. Worst. Who even knew there were so many kinds of milks? "I hear almond milk is bad for the environment. I feel bad drinking it, but it's all my parents ever buy," Cassie said. We landed at the next house. It was several seconds before I noticed the eerie silence. Axe climbed, cautiously, with 2 legs, out of the sleigh and landed with a soft crunch and walked up until he stood beside me. Then he began loosening the reins. "Axe, what the—" "Marco," Axe interrupted. "We need to go." "Go? What are you—" "Marco," Jake interrupted. "Look where we are." I hadn't been paying attention. After the first 1,000 or so houses, I'd just been flying/running on autopilot. Axe and Tobias had been navigating on some weird instinctive wavelength, and that instinct had brought us to my house. "Marco, that is, Santa's bag is empty. I am not delivering a material gift, but I am called here just the same as every other house. I think you need to go inside." "Don't forget to demorph first," Rachel added, helpfully. "We all should," said Tobias. Leave it to him to remember that now. "I will demorph after this visit. Is it?" "What?" I added. "I am still acting in my duty as Santa Claus. I must go inside, too." Free of the harness, I demorphed on the rooftop. Only when I was human again did I realize how cold it was. And quiet. That eerie, slightly echoey ambiance you only get when it's cold outside and when there's less than the normal amount of background noise. Like on major holidays. Axe led me to the chimney. My chimney. I'd seen him do it 100 times by now, but that didn't mean I had to like the prospect of following him. "Alright, what's the big deal?" I thought to myself. Dad and Nora are asleep, we drop in, I give Axe an Oreo, we leave. I gingerly reached toward the chimney stack, and as my hand approached it, the entire column of bricks schlooped around me. There was a brief sensation of dropping, and I stepped out of my own fireplace. Around the corner, I could tell the kitchen light was on. Leaving Axe to his own devices, I stepped around the corner, and there, at the breakfast nook, was my dad. He was sipping from a coffee cup with a midnight snack on a plate in front of him. What was that, a Hot Pocket? "Dad!" I choked out. "Marco!" he said, a little louder than I think he intended. He lowered his voice and glanced back toward his bedroom, where Nora was. "It's midnight," he half-whispered. "For me, it's been midnight for like 10 hours. Yeah, it's been kind of a long night." "I know what you mean," he laughed. "No, you really don't, but I'll let you have this one. Every Christmas Eve, you know. You want to sit down?" "I'd like that," I said. I took a seat opposite him. "You want one?" he said, gesturing at his plate. "What even is that?" "An empanada. Frozen, of course, but, you know." Oh, God. I'd forgotten. Had I? No, of course not. It would be impossible. I'd sort of willed myself to forget. A self-trained blind spot. "Mom and Grandma," I said, and trailed off. "Every Christmas," my dad finished. "Tamales are more traditional, but you and I don't like tamales." We both laughed. "She'd go to your grandma's and they'd make 'em all day, just the two of them in that little apartment. And then they'd go around to friends and neighbors and trade them for cookies. They'd be up so late every Christmas Eve. Once she didn't get home until midnight." I felt so mad at myself. How could I let myself forget? "And then she came in through the front door and shut it behind her, right?" My dad stared at me, puzzled. "Well, yeah, Marco, she wasn't going to come down the chimney." "Right," I started giggling like an idiot, "because we didn't have one in the old house." "You should really go to bed, Marco." I got control of myself, mostly. "Yeah, you probably should too." You gonna eat that?" I pointed at the formerly frozen empanada. My dad shook his head and laughed again. "It looks so gross, Marco. I don't know what I was thinking." "Split it with you?" My dad broke it in half. "One Christmas Eve, I let you stay up a little late while your mom was out, and you swore you saw Santa out the window." As he said this, Axe darted past the doorway behind him. Was he headed towards the front door? "Really?" I said, nervously. "Yeah. You know, for all the cookies your mom brought home, my favorite was still the chocolate no-bakes she made with you." My mouth started watering at the thought of those. "Dad?" "Yeah, Marco?" "This is one of the grossest things I've ever tasted." I don't feel a ton of deep connection to Hispanic culture, but on an instinctive level, something told me this product was offensive. Agreed. "Shaloop?" "Did you hear that?" my dad asked. "No!" I choked. My dad got up and headed towards the living room. My blood ran cold. That sound had to be Axe leaving, right? If not, and my dad found him there, what the hell was I going to say? And if Axe had left, what was I going to do? The living room was empty. I felt slightly relieved. "Never mind. Cold blood again." "What the hell?" my dad asked. "I'll get it," I said. I walked to the door, slowly, with my dad right behind me. I opened the door, and there was Axe, in full Santa regalia. "Marco, did you invite your friend No for a Christmas sleepover and not tell me?" "No, Dad. That is to say, I did not invite No for a sleepover. He's, caroling. Midnight caroling is a Christmas tradition in Equatorial Guinea, where No is from. Right, No?" Oh shit, did Axe know any Christmas songs? Anything that might reasonably pass for a Christmas song? Axe stared at me with a completely blank expression for the world's longest second, before beginning to sing, in a way too loud but surprisingly melodious voice, Honda days, savings all the way. Oh, what fun it is to lease a brand new car today, hey!" He spread his arms wide and held the pose before delivering, at machine gun pace, "Optional extras shown, loan subject to credit approval, terms and conditions apply." I swear I could feel the confusion radiating from my dad. "I'm going to bed," he muttered. "Wait, sir!" shouted Axe. "I believe I require that holiday refreshment. Ent. I looked over my shoulder. My dad was still holding the plate and what was left of the empanada. He handed it over. 9. And Tales of the Glories. I had to feign the whole "good night, Dad" routine before going up to my room, which left me in a bind. I needed to rejoin everyone on the roof, but Dad was still putting around downstairs. My standard method of sneaking out in the middle of the night was Animorph through the bedroom window, but that would mean a double morph to get back to Reindeer. "Guys, we might have a problem out here," Tobias said. It was kind of faint, but the urgency was apparent. "I am morphing as fast as I can," Axe said. "I am experiencing abdominal distress. I believe the volume of tonight's intake is having adverse effects. Especially that savory treat I obtained from Marco's father. Great, a frozen empanada was going to be the tapas that broke Kris Kringle's back. Owl it was. I cracked my window. As I morphed, "What?" Rachel shouted. "You mean Santa can't morph because he has a tummy ache?" "I thought it went to Z-Space," Cassie said. "Perhaps as the veil continues to thin on this sacred night, Z-Space itself is fluctuating. That would make sense given that... Oh, that hurts. Where was I?" I took inventory of the situation as soon as I got outside. I didn't see any smoking craters or Taxons coming up the driveway. That was a good sign. Axe was fully Andalite now. The process had left the Santa suit a tangled mess that he was trying to step out of without scything it to shreds while his hands clutched the space above his front legs. "Marco, where are you?" Jake shouted. "Owl, above you." "Owl? Perfect, we need your eyes. You see that 2-story down the street? Check it out. We'll be right behind you as soon as Axe remorphs." "Can you even take off without me?" I asked. "Isn't that sleigh built for like 8? "I guess we'll find out. Axe, forget the clothes. Just get back up here." As I approached my neighbor's house with no idea of what I was looking for, I realized we'd made a stupid mistake. "Wait, how's Axe gonna get up to you?" A physically coordinated human could probably scramble up to the roof, but Axe in human morph? Forget it. And in Andalite form, it was impossible. He'd either have to double morph or else the others would have to take a short flight down to him. In the meantime, I arrived at the neighbors. Owl eyes are great in the dark, but these neighbors had gone full Clark Griswold with their decorating to the point that it actually hurt my eyes somewhat. I saw movement silhouetted through the drapes, but no detail. Then, "There!" Tobias shouted. "The chimney!" He was tall. He was fat. He had a long white beard and wispy white hair. But he wasn't wearing a red velvet suit or a cap, nor was he carrying a sack. In fact, he was dressed in a jumpsuit that I'd only seen aboard Yerk ships. "Holy shit! Guys, it's Santa! The real Santa! But he's..." And suddenly, he was gone. "I knew it!" Tobias called back. "God, he's fast! Next house!" "They made him a controller!" shrieked Cassie. "Can you infest a quantum wave function?" asked Rachel. "Because everything is a wave," Axe grunted. "In a sense, one can only infest quantum wave functions." I banked hard and scanned the ground. Movement! Santa, though out of uniform and bereft of transportation, was dashing through the streets, paying a brief visit to nearly every house on the way. "Guys, take off if you can. Axe, get out of sight." "No!" Axe groaned. "I'm coming with you." I couldn't tell if it was bravery, determination, or delirium. I heard a faint scrape as Tobias, Jake, Rachel, and Cassie skidded off my roof. They didn't topple off, thankfully, but they didn't exactly take flight either. The best they could manage was a tentative glide, with the sleigh bottoming out at least once. Meanwhile, Santa was finishing up a house and moving on every 30 seconds or so. That was way faster than Axe had been able to, but slow enough that I could keep pace with him, at least for now. I really hope just one little kid was staring out their window right then. I need to believe that some deserving little boy or girl got to see a fat man in a jumpsuit running at Olympic speeds down the street, followed by an owl, Rudolph and the Rejects towing a poorly handling hover sleigh, and at last, the lopsided clop 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 of an Andalite with indigestion. I saw movement in a window. I flared my wings and went for a risky perch on the sill outside a kitchen window. There he was, at the table. "The cookies! Guys, he's eating the cookies!" "Better him than Axe at this point," Tobias said. "This doesn't make sense," Jake said. "You just noticed?" Rachel added. Jake continued. "Okay, so he's a controller. I can deal with that. But why is he still making the rounds then? They said the Yerks were trying to stop Christmas. Looks like he's trying to beat an old record." "Christmas Eve any percent speed run," Tobias said. "Are we sure the Christmas Chi and Spectral Mrs. Claus are the best source of intel?" Rachel asked. "Hey!" I shouted back. "Diss Eric all you want, but I don't want to hear a word about Arctic Arwen, okay?" Axe had finally caught up, both vis-a-vis the distance and the subject matter. "Oh, your gods. Friends, We have made a grave error. They are not trying to stop your Christmas. Quite the opposite. They are trying to ensure it arrives on schedule via the Yerks." "What would that accomplish?" asked Jake. "Oh, no. I get it, I think," Cassie said. "Think about what we saw at the North Pole. The base, the manufacturing. It only exists because people will it so, right? If the Yerks bring Christmas instead, by the transitive property, those assets fall under Yerk control," Axe finished. "They'll see us when we're sleeping," Tobias said. "Know if we're awake," Jake added. "They'll know if we've been bad," said Cassie. "Or worse," I muttered. In spite of his discomfort, swollen with pride and cookies, Axe stepped toward the target house's front door and assumed a combat posture, with his tail at the ready. "We must defend Christmas, for all our sakes." All was silent and calm for a tense moment as we stared down the door. I half expected to see the glint of tinsel tumbleweed rolling down the street. With a sickening schloop, Santa emerged from the house, all 7 feet or so of him. He and Axe locked eyes. You ever notice how in photos of kids on Santa's lap they're rarely smiling? Parents don't seem to realize that Santa is a little terrifying under the best of circumstances. These were not the best of circumstances. His eyes full of hatred, his fists were like hams, his muscles like granite, he was built like Van Damme, and he calmly exclaimed, filling me with deep fright, "Your name is not known to me, child. You are on neither list. You do not keep the holiday. Come here and know me better, Claus, or should I say, Yerk." Axe leapt forward, tail slashing faster than we could see. Santa seemed unbothered. He dodged, he weaved. He grabbed Axe's tail at the midpoint, stopping his blade from hitting home, and he landed a Christmas punch. "Guys, Axe needs help," Tobias yelled. "We need to get out of these harnesses," said Cassie. "You don't have time," I yelled back. "We can run him down," shouted Rachel. "I want to see Santa get run over by a reindeer. Axe, try to lure him into the street." The sleigh took off down the block, and they started an awkward U-turn, trying to leave room to gather speed. I flapped hard to gain altitude and dived, trying to buzz Santa while not getting sliced in half by Axe. Santa swatted me away nonchalantly. I trimmed, banked, and came back for another pass. Axe made a cautious retreat out into the street. I had just enough altitude to survey the situation. "Axe, get ready to dodge. Tobias, dim that nose if you can." In the middle of the street now, Axe held his ground, despite the punishing assault he was taking from the Christmas turkey and the holiday ham. The sleigh came barreling up the street. "Axe, now!" With a backwards leap that seems like it could clear a swimming pool, Axe dodged the rampaging sleigh. I expected carnage. None of us expected that Santa would leap, seemingly weightless, up and over the reindeer and land in the sleigh. It seems obvious now, but to add a third classic blunder to the dyad famously described in The Princess Bride, we just tried to beat Santa Claus on Christmas Eve in a street fight using his own equipment. How stupid were we? When you have a row with Michael Jordan, you don't challenge him to one-on-one, you have a poisoned pizza sent to his hotel room. Exactly as rapid as an eagle, I flew after the ensemble, with Axe scrambling back to his feet and bounding behind me. We were heading in the opposite direction now, back toward my house. Then, several things happened more or less at once. My brain was able to put together the inevitable sequence in half a second, and I think Axe was there with me, but rather than deliver a useful warning to the others, I only had time to say, "Oh, shh!" before it was all over. Santa's alternate sleigh, that is, a Yerk bug fighter, red running light and all, came in low over the housetops, taking everyone but Santa by surprise. The reindeer instinctively tried to duck, and instead went skidding, jackknifing the sleigh. The engine wash sent me tumbling beak over talon into the asphalt. Meanwhile, Santa ditched the sleigh wreck with another wild leap, taking with him his signature sack he'd reacquired from the sleigh. He used it as an improvised parachute to glide down to a gentle landing on my own front lawn, where Axe's hastily abandoned Santa suit lay on the ground. He donned the gay apparel in a flash. The last thing he did, with a triumphant air, was put on the hat. Santa reached into his bag and pulled out a radio? A flashlight? No, it was a Dracon beam! Tobias pulled up, with the rest following his lead. Santa's bright red beam illuminated the night in a hellish glow. He missed the deer, but he hit the sleigh. After a brief, mocking glow, it was gone. The bug fighter, which had a tighter turning radius than the sleigh, was swinging back toward us now. "We need to split up," Jake yelled. "Axe, can you get us out of these harnesses?" Free of the weight of the sleigh, the others were much more nimble now. They turned on a dime and sprinted back towards Axe and me. Axe readied his tail. Tobias, who had been centered in the lopsided 4-pack of reindeer, leaned as far to his left as he could, putting him more or less in front of Jake. Staggered next to them were Rachel and then Cassie. As they flew 2 by 2 past Axe on either side, I heard 3 or 4 brief thwack sounds, and an instant later, 4 reindeer rose high in the sky, free of harnesses, and split in different directions. I swear I saw the bug fighter hesitate in midair. It couldn't follow all of them. But the bug fighter wasn't their only problem. We still had Santa taking aim from the ground. Axe raced toward him again. "We aren't finished, Yerk!" he shouted with forced bravado. Santa took the bait. "Well done. I know you now, Arist Aximili Escarouth Isthil. You are the newest name on the nice list. It's a pity you'll never live to see what I leave in your stocking." Santa took aim. Axe darted out of the way, but Santa hadn't seen me. "Hey, Santa!" I said, entering a dive. "Knock, knock!" "What?" "No, you're supposed to say," I raked my talons forward before calling out loud, "Who?" My talons made contact with his face. I came away with blood on my feathers and Santa's hat in my claws. His scream echoed through the not-so-silent night. I'll admit it, Who doesn't have the undeniable coolness of Tyr, but you work with what you've got. Clutching at his face, Santa fired wildly into the air. The bug fighter came to his aid, lifting him off the ground with the same kind of energy beam we'd seen in Eric's hologram recording back at the North Pole. The bug fighter throttled up and was out of sight seconds later. We weren't the priority. Santa was re-equipped and we were in no position to carry on. Christmas was his to deliver. I landed gently beside Axe and began to demorph. Axe stoops to pick something up. The Dracon beam. Santa had dropped it when I'd impacted him. "I have failed," Axe said, quietly. I stood slowly, shivering in the cold night air. One by one, the others came to quiet landings beside us. "It's not your fault, Axe," I whispered. "That was brave. Stupidly brave. But yeah, we're boned." "So that's it?" Rachel said, angrily. "We can't track him," Jake said. "Can't keep up with him. Can't deliver presents without the sack. Tomorrow morning..." "No!" said Cassie. No, there's got to be an option. There's always an option. We could fly back to the North Pole. They've got to have backup equipment. Or get to the King's house, that's closer. Maybe Mr. King as a way to contact Eric? "Santa was just going for the milk and cookies at first," Tobias said. "Maybe it's like a weaker form of the ritual. We could keep doing that." "No, I can't," whispered Axe. "Yes, you can," Tobias said. "And so can I. We can..." Tobias shuddered and shook as if he was trying to puff his non-existent feathers. "We can use our taxon morphs." "Oh, that's nice," I said. "Little Cindy Lou is going to see a taxon come down the chimney and not be able to sleep again until next Christmas." I laughed at the absurdity of it all. Taxons crawling around, eating cookies as we stopped at the house of everyone who celebrates Christmas. "Every house," I mumbled out loud. "Everyone who celebrates Christmas." "Oh, this is good. This is good." I jumped up and down. "Axe, what was that thing he said to you?" "You know what? Never mind. Guys, we can make him come to us." "And then what?" Jake asked. "Axe didn't even inconvenience him. It was like fighting a howler." "You're right, Jake. We're not going to fight our way out of this. I'll explain on the way. Just let me morph. Actually, better idea. We'll save time. You know the 7-Eleven in my old neighborhood? That's on the way." "Oh, you want to get mugged for Christmas?" said Rachel. Been there, done that. Let's go. And without warning, I jumped onto the back of the nearest reindeer. Hey, Axe, I called. Here. I tossed Axe Santa's coveted hat. My talons had punctured it more or less as needed for him to finagle his stock eyes through it. There must have been some magic in that red wool hat, because when Axe placed it on his head, it seems to not only lift his spirits, but literally lift him. He didn't exactly fly, but as with the other reindeer, I swear Axe's hooves didn't quite touch the ground. Silently, tirelessly, 4 reindeer, an Andalite, and a half-Hispanic smartass underachiever on the naughty list glided down the desolate side streets of steadily worsening neighborhoods in the darkest hours of the night. "Marco," Rachel whispered to me in private thought-speak, "you pinched my neck for a little on the last turn. You can loosen up a bit. I won't let you fall." I grinned the biggest, dumbest grin. I couldn't use thought-speak, so I leaned in close to one ear. "I really hoped it was you." "What?" Jake asked in exasperation. "What are you talking about? Get out of my ear!" "Ah!" I straightened back up. "Gotcha," said Rachel. The reindeer to my left winked at me. "Good news, friends! I was able to salvage one more piece of jetsam from Santa's sleigh," Axe announced. "Ow!" 10. December 24th on Hollis Ave in the dark. I strolled into the 7-Eleven as casually as one could in the middle of the night on Christmas Eve, wearing what basically amounted to my underwear. "Hey, Clarence," I called with a friendly wave. "Long time no see." I was blatantly flouting the no-shoes half of the no-service maxim, but Clarence was behind bulletproof glass working graveyard at a perpetual crime scene on Christmas, and I was the least of his concerns. "Hey, Marco! Yeah, it's been a while. Did your dad really send you out for groceries now? It's," he checked his watch, "after midnight. Merry Christmas." Clarence had seen me too many times do things like buy bread, milk, and M&Ms for dinner at 10 o'clock on a school night. I suspect he'd given me deep discounts most of the time. Made me feel bad for what I was planning now. Yep, it sure is just after midnight. How time flies. I started gathering the needed supplies. Tub of, I can't believe it's not, butter, milk, peanut butter. No, my dad's doing much better, thankfully. I was just out for a winter jog, work up a good sweat to shed those Christmas calories. Hey, where do you keep those Quaker instant breakfasts? Behind you. Ah, thanks. I walked to the section with the coffee condiments and grabbed as many sugar packets as I dared, and 3 or 4 of the much bigger Swiss Miss cocoa packets. I walked up to the register. "You got any of that canned flame stuff?" "Yeah," said Clarence. "We've got to keep the sterno back here with the cigarettes and magazines. Too many bums try to use it to get a cheap drunk." "You're not going to drink this, right? You'll go blind." That's the second time tonight somebody's warned me I'll go blind. No, I'm just going to light it on fire like a normal teenager. Promise. Oh, that reminds me, one of those Bic disposables? Clarence grabbed a lighter and threw it in a plastic bag with the rest of my stuff. "All right, your total comes to..." "Hey, are those your reindeer at pump 3? I paused for a moment. I had to play it smart. Subtle. "Yeah, they're with me. Do you know if they take unleaded or diesel?" "Why is one of them blue?" Leaning against the counter, I rubbed my eyes with my hand. "Because someday, all reindeer will be blue." 11. The shoppers rush home with their treasures. "The thing about knowing you're on the naughty list," I explained, ostensibly to Jake, but really anyone who was listening, which was probably no one, "is that once you know you're on it, you're on it. I feel really bad about robbing Clarence like that. Maybe I'll send him the money after the holiday. Then again, I didn't really rob him, I robbed 7-Eleven, and they're good for it." Nothing. We were at Axe's Scoop. The world's newest official keeper of Christmas was expecting his first visit from St. Nick, and we were sparing no frivolity. It's a Wonderful Life was playing quietly on Axe's pirated cable. Jake was hammering the cleanest of socks that Axe, and occasionally Tobias, kept on hand for their human morphs into Axe's bookshelf. Cassie was threading Axe's favorite LED strips into Tobias's branch. Somewhere close by, Rachel and Tobias were lurking in their most festive polar bear morphs. And Axe, with his cap on his head, a thin blanket over his shoulders, and his hoof in a paint trough full of Pepto-Bismol, tried his hardest to get some sleep. As for me, by the light and heat of my hot can of Sterno, I was brewing a concoction of what was sure to be the world's worst chocolate no-bake cookies. Just the way my mother and grandmother taught me. Melt the fake butter, add milk, chocolate, peanut butter, and the secret ingredient. Mix thoroughly, dollop onto a plate, let chill. Axe had the saucepan and plate, and the night air would provide the chill. I was glad I wouldn't have to eat them. All this larceny talk reminds me, I carried on. Jake, did you ever get around to actually sending the money to that beach vendor for the stolen t-shirts? Jake paused his hammering. No. And yet I'm the one on the naughty list? Cassie exclaimed. I think we're ready, I announced. I hastily assembled the cookies onto the plate, singeing my fingers as I did so. I poured the remainder of the milk into a dirty mug and set it on the bookshelf next to Axe's World Almanac and Ford Mustang Day Calendar. Once again, we found ourselves in an oppressive quiet. The glow of the LED lights, the small TV, and the last bits of the sterno flame just served to throw monstrous shadows against the treetops. Jake and Cassie retreated to opposite corners of Axe's scoop and morphed to tiger and wolf, respectively. And as I had wanted to dozens of hours and also just a few minutes earlier, I morphed gorilla. I needed an opposable thumb. 12. Just exactly at 12 o'clock. We waited. I watched Axe. His stalk eyes drooped. His main eyes were fluttery. He was asleep. Over the ridge of Axe's scoop, we heard the distinctive, otherworldly hum of bugfighter engines. An electric charge seems to permeate the air. He's on the ground, Rachel reported. I couldn't hear him yet, but I trusted Rachel's word for it. The bugfighter began to ascend and accelerate to patrol speed. As it passed overhead, Tsew! I fired a single aimed shot from our recovered Drakenbeam. Direct hit! It didn't burst into flames, but the tones from the engines distinctly changed, and a contrail of thick smoke came pouring out. It limped off into the distance. It was the Forest Service's problem now. Santa now had neither transport, nor shelter, nor recon. It was him and us. One way or another, it ended here. With the bugfighter gone, I could hear the heavy crunch of his boots long before I could see him. Finally, he came up over the ridge. His wound from my talons was gnarly. I'd almost turned Santa into Odin. I know he saw us. He spoke not a word, but went straight to his work. Santa may have been slave to the yerk in his head, but both were locked into a sacred contract far more powerful than either of them. He deposited a wrapped box under Tobias's LED-adorned branch. He dropped something small into the size 11 Fruit of the Loom stocking. He ate a cookie. And another. A sip of milk. One more cookie. The jig is up, Santa. He turned his head toward me, slowly, with malice and intent. Oh? Marco, you dare threaten Father Christmas? From the naughty list, even? This noble Andalite, with formidable blade and untainted spirit, couldn't touch me. Do you realize that I, that is, the real I, Visser 12, know exactly who and what you truly are, divined from Santa Claus's perfect knowledge of all the world's children? Once the Christmas contract has been fulfilled, 6 platoons each of Hork-Bajir will descend on each of your houses. I morphed back as he monologued. No reason hiding now. I regretted my decision somewhat as I regained my normal stature and realized Santa's face was a couple feet further away than it had been. Behind Santa, a pair of identical polar bears peered over the rim of the scoop. I held out a hand, signaling hold. Nice speech, Visser. Really, I'm happy for you. Sounds like you've got humanity by the Christmas balls, which is a hell of an accomplishment considering this time last night I didn't even believe in you. Just one thing. I know the scalded milk and powdery cheap cocoa probably hides the taste, but what did you think of the cookies? A pedestrian effort. Last minute, zero technique, slightly burned oatmeal no-bakes. Well, it's been a while since I've been able to make them with my mom, but you should have checked the packaging twice. I reached across to Axe's workbench and tossed Santa an empty cardboard cup. Quaker instant oatmeal. Maple and ginger flavor. A holiday tradition. The Yerk didn't say anything, but his eyes widened. Santa eats, what, a few million cookies on a given Christmas Eve? Gotta have a pretty fast metabolism to handle that, which helps explain the strength. You have, like, a minute until that hits the bloodstream? Congratulations, Visser 12, you're immortal, just like your host. That Kandrona you must be planning to install at the North Pole? You won't need it. At least no one could try to usurp your host during feeding. You never have to leave. Can you imagine what Visser 3 must go through? No. No. No! Santa fell to his knees, sending a slight but perceptible tremor through the grass. I gave the now signal to Rachel and Tobias. 2 full-grown polar bears leapt into the scoop, leaving the place suddenly very crowded, and pinned Santa's arms. Axe sprang to life and put his blade to Santa's throat. You have seconds to exit, or we'll remove you the hard way, Axe hissed. Santa shot me a final, defiant look. Into the bag, I said, holding out Santa's toy sack. Seconds later, the Yerk came wriggling out of Santa's ear and disappeared into the bag. I quickly tied a tight knot around the top. We all took a step back, which became much easier once everyone had demorphed, and waited, nervously. After several deep, meditative breaths, Santa, the one and only Santa, rose to his feet. Somehow, he seemed even bigger now, but in a good way. Sir, Axe said, I believe this belongs to you. Axe held out Santa's hat. I have hundreds, Santa said, gently. You keep this one, Aximili. You are truly worthy of the name, Santa. Thank you. By the way, Aximili, the pain stops after a few days. I find Pepsid AC works a bit better than Pepto. Oh, thank the gods. And thank you, Santa Claus. Thank you. As for the rest of you children, I'm sorry I cannot do more to help you in your fight. My authority is limited only to this night, and even then, only in certain disciplines. But I can offer you a small token of appreciation. Tell me, is there a gift your heart desires? I was still trying to parse exactly what he meant when... Ah, Jake, of course. At home you will find a PlayStation 2 in your room 3 months before they are even due to release in Japan. Your friends will be jealous. Can confirm, I said. But I didn't even... Jake began. Santa knows, Santa said. Who's next? An easy bake oven! Axe shouted joyfully as he cut the wrapping paper off the gift Santa had left. Cassie, your name is hereby expunged from the naughty list. Thank you, Santa. That's all I wanted. And Marco, well, I can tell you, but this needs to be our little secret. And then Santa confided in me why Cassie was on the naughty list in the first place. I'll never look at her the same way again. Nah, that's a lie. I totally get it. Santa, Rachel said with a note of confusion, it's a nice gesture and all, but really, I don't celebrate. Also, I didn't ask for these. Rachel was suddenly in a pair of new sandals and holding a thin strap with a hook at one end. Oh, crap, Tobias muttered. I think that was me. Sorry, Rachel. Everybody, really sorry. God, I've got to learn to be more clear. This is the Elemist and the Raccoon all over again. I'm so confused, Jake said. What is that, a really short leash? No, said Cassie. It's something they use in falconry when a bird is in training. But what does that have to do with sandal... Oh, I get it now. She started to laugh. And continued to laugh. Merry Christmas, everybody, Tobias said before taking flight into the night. And to all a good night, Axe said sleepily. 13. But the very next day. Rachel narrating. The sky was gray and I'd just fallen asleep when the phone rang. It was Cassie. Hello? I grumbled. Rachel, it's Cassie. Listen, Eric contacted Jake, and apparently that shooting star that Marco pointed at last night was found in the forest. According to Eric, people are on their way to collect it. Like the military. This could be big. Call me back when it's huge, I said, and hung up. My head fell back on the pillow when I heard a scraping sound at my window. Tobias, probably still trying to find new ways to apologize, which honestly was starting to get more annoying than the thing he was apologizing for. The shoes were cute, at least. I threw open my curtains, expecting to see a red-tailed hawk perched delicately on my windowsill. I had to swallow a scream when instead I saw a full-sized human silhouette dangling impossibly right outside the window. Thankfully, it only took me another second or so to realize it was Eric. I yanked the window open. "Eric!" I rasped. "Come on, what now?" "Rachel, you've got to help me. Now, I know you don't celebrate. I am so sick of this. What is it, are all 12 days of Christmas in trouble?" "What?" "Oh, no, screw Christmas. Rachel, we need you to help us save Boxing Day." This concludes the Animorphs Save Christmas. This is Torin wishing you a happy holiday, a safe solstice, a warm winter. Trust no one. See you next year.